200.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes!
This is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
He's a great guy.
Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
I don't get it. Producer Shannon said, is that really the YouTube live headline for right now on our YouTube, that I want to pack the racquetball court?
Don't you play now and again?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It's a sort of a court packing joke. Yes, I haven't played in a while. In fact, if you see me on YouTube right now, if you go to youtube.com and type in Ross Kaminsky, you'll see the live stream. And for the first time in a while, I've got back on my right wrist this thing that somebody once asked me if it meant I was a bowler. Shannon, can you see the picture? And
it looks painful.
It doesn't. Well, so kind of you can't really see this. It's bad for the radio side, but if you're watching on YouTube, just on the outside of my right wrist, kind of just below the wrist, it's hurting a lot. And so I'm just wearing this thing to, I don't know. You know, this is what happens when you're not 27 years old anymore. Things happen, and you don't know why, and you get aches and pains, and they show up out of nowhere. And frankly, I don't feel old, even in the least. But still, you get stuff like this, and it takes a long time to get better, and you're like, oh man. I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday who will remain nameless, who's got the COVID. Kind of like, except, right, we had Ron Johnson on the show the other day, and Ron's got no symptoms, senator from Wisconsin. I was talking to another friend of mine, and now these are the only two people I personally know, Senator Johnson and this other guy who have it or ever had it, and this other guy said he feels really sick, doesn't feel good at all. And the number of cases is going up in some places. Number of cases seems to be going up in Europe, although that may be testing. We'll see. But the good news, and I mentioned this in a tweet a couple days ago, is that the number of deaths isn't going up. And the number of hospitalizations only going up a little. And if you see me leaning over, it's because I got to plug something into the computer today. Didn't do it before, but we got it done there because I'm going to play some sound for you in a minute. And I think one of the things, look, President Trump's treatment with coronavirus not the same as the treatment that everybody's going to get. But overall, I think the message is that doctors have learned a lot about how to treat this thing and how not to treat it and how to ventilate and how not to ventilate and all this stuff. And that, you know, people get better with practice. Like doctors get better with practice at treating coronavirus. And so the death rate is dropping and dropping and dropping, which doesn't mean that it's not a scary thing, especially for older people or people with pre-existing conditions, but we'll all hang in there. I hope my friend feels better soon. I would like to share a little sound with you here. Thanks, and if you feel after a little bit that you would like to rip your own head off after hearing the sound that I'm going to play for you. In fact, I'm going to play it more than once just because it ties in with the story. I would like you to send all of your complaints to Producer Shannon. Let's make up an email address for Producer Shannon that isn't really his email. Why don't we just say Shannon@producershannon.com. Hopefully that's not somebody's actual email, but send all of your complaints to Shannon@producershannon.com.
Baby shark doo 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 doo. Baby shark doo 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 doo. Baby shark doo 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 doo. Baby shark. Mommy shark doo 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 doo. Mommy shark doo 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 doo. Mommy shark doo 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 doo. Mommy shark. Daddy shark doo 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 doo.
You want to kill yourself yet?
Daddy shark.
I mean, as if it's
Daddy shark.
As if it's not. Oh, Grandma Shark. As if it's not bad enough listening to it. I mean, I'm watching it. Oh, there's Grandpa Shark. And you got all these people standing on this, behind it, in front of a green screen that's made up to look like a cartoon version of an aquarium. Like SpongeBob. It looks like a SpongeBob, cartoon set. And they're all doing this little dance and moving their hands and arms like a shark bite as they sing Mommy Shark. Baby Shark. Oh, it's an octopus now. It's not just a shark all the time. Okay, Shannon knows why I'm playing this music and causing us all severe brain damage on this Friday morning. And why I'm keeping it playing at the risk of being accused of being a cause of mass suicide in Denver. The reason I'm sharing with you is DJ Shannon found an awesome news story that he sent me a headline from Fox News. Oklahoma jail employees allegedly played Baby Shark on repeat for handcuffed inmates and have been charged with crime for it. The DA said, I would have preferred filing a felony on this behavior. Mommy Shark. Uh-huh. Daddy Shark. Daddy Shark. Grandma Shark. All right. So, here's what we've got. At least 2 former Oklahoma jail employees and their supervisor were charged earlier this week after investigators said they discovered handcuffed inmates were forced to listen to the children's song Baby Shark for hours. District Attorney David Prater charged Oklahoma County Jail employees Gregory Cornell Butler Jr. and Christian Charles Miles, both 21. They're 21, they probably listen to this song. It's probably one of their favorite things on TikTok. Isn't that the way kids are these days? And charged their supervisor, Christopher Raymond, who's 50, with misdemeanor counts of cruelty to a prisoner and conspiracy. He said, it was unfortunate that I could not find a felony statute to fit this fact scenario. I would have preferred filing a felony on this behavior. Come on, is this felony music? All the sharks. Sing it, everyone. Come on, join me at 6:14 in the morning and sing it. All the sharks. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that actually might be a felony song. At least 4 inmates were subjected to the inhumane discipline in an attorney visitation room last November and December, according to authorities. The inmates were allegedly secured to a wall while handcuffed as the song played on a loop for hours at a high level of volume. Butler and Miles are accused of imposing the discipline, the paper reported. Hendershot is accused of not intervening and allowing the behavior. Oh, my goodness, Shannon. The pair resigned during an internal investigation, and the manager retired. The local sheriff said, we don't tolerate it. We always did an excellent job policing ourselves. A video for the children's song Baby Shark was posted online by the company Pink Fong in 2016. It gained huge popularity 2 years ago, and as I'm looking at it, so this is actually a different version. So this is the one I'm playing for you is a less popular version. It's from a group called Bounce Patrol, and it has, are you ready for this? This is the unpopular version. This one has 1.8 billion, with a B, views. The other one that they were playing, which maybe was even more criminal charge worthy, has more than 6.7 billion views. So combine just those 2 versions of this song have 8.5 billion views. Billion. Oh, it's the octopus. I like the octopus.
And a clapping seal.
Oh, a clapping seal. All right. Now, do you feel like I personally should be charged with some kind of crime for playing that for you first thing in the morning? Well, maybe it's not first thing for you. Maybe you're an early riser and you've been up for a while, but oh gosh, the things people do.
It reminds me of the Canadian cops who would punish DUI suspects by playing Nickelback in their patrol car as they drove the suspect to jail.
Really? You know what it reminds me of? Oh, I've got a text here from a listener, and I can't tell if he's joking because there's no emojis or anything. But it says, Ross, you're an a-hole. Except it has the whole word. So if you're still listening and you texted that at me, please tell me whether you were kidding or whether I deserve to go to jail or something for that. Another listener, Ross, wow, that is not a soundbite I was expecting. Ross, first time I heard Baby Shark, Howard Stern was singing it. Ross, kill the music. It sucks. That is exactly the point. Ross, 2-year-old, is still asleep, and I've already heard Baby Shark. What have you done? And that's probably the winner. And then one more. Ross, talk show host Shark. I like it. Talk show host Shark. Oh, I'm a little concerned about the one that calls me an a-hole. I don't know. I don't really know where that came from. Or yeah. I didn't know my boss was up. Oh my gosh. All right, I tell you what. Since you're over Baby Shark, and since I don't want, Phil Weiser to show up at my door with a warrant, I'm going to do something different now. I want to share with you a little article that touches on a subject I am passionate about myself, and I think it's reasonably well written, and it does get back to politics and economics and not Baby Shark, but I will give you more Baby Shark a little later, especially for the person who called me an a-hole. That just doesn't seem right. A person says, Ross, you should be heavily fined. It's Friday morning. I think that's the person who called me an a-hole. So I guess he's joking. I hope so. All right, here we go. Let me share this article with you. I think it's decent. It had been a while since I cheered any news out of Washington, D.C., but on Tuesday afternoon, President Trump, feeling better than he has in 20 years, decided to spread some of that joy my way with his announcement regarding COVID-19 relief/bailout negotiations between his administration and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi that, quote, as usual, she's not negotiating in good faith. I have instructed my representatives to stop negotiating until after the election. Sure, the rest of that tweet promised to pass a major stimulus bill after the election, but still it felt like the first deep gulp of fiscal sanity for a nation swamped by a red ink tsunami. The recent deficit tidal wave culminated in Thursday's depressing statement from the Congressional Budget Office that, quote, the federal government ran a budget deficit of $3.1 trillion in fiscal year 2020. After Trump's tweet, the stock market did what it always does when it fears that politicians will stop dumping helicopter money. It threw a tantrum. But as tantrums go, it wasn't much of one. The S&P 500 was down a mere 1.4%. That's like a poker player saying, I think you're bluffing, but I'm not sure enough to bet more than beer money on it. Because the market knows that the economy doesn't actually need more helicopter money. We know some other things, too. Our kids don't need to be swamped under another $2 trillion of national debt. Redistributing $1,200 to every American adult making $75,000 or less, or $2,400 to every couple making $150,000 or less, with a bonus of $500 per child, including to folks who haven't lost a cent of income, is not just outrageous, it's immoral. If you vote for a bill that gives a 2-child couple making $140,000 a helicopter dumped $3,400 of someone else's money, you should have the lack of courage of your lack of convictions and do a Jim Jeffords, or at least stop pretending that you're a fiscal conservative. Jim Jeffords, by the way, a senator who some years ago switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. Yet merely 7 hours after his Twitter burst of fiscal rationality, the president's courage began to fail him. He tweeted that, quote, the House and Senate should immediately approve $25 billion for airline payroll support and $135 billion for Paycheck Protection Program for small business. Both of these will be fully paid for with unused funds from the CARES Act. Have this money, we'll sign now, end quote. It's not as bad an idea as another $2 trillion in new spending, but negotiating with yourself never works out well. And just minutes after the president began to wobble, he toppled completely. Quote, if I am sent a standalone bill for stimulus checks, parentheses $1,200, they will go out to our great people immediately. I am ready to sign right now. Are you listening, Nancy? For a man whose brand is strength, the groveling emitted an odor of desperation. Axios reported that the next day the president called House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and said he wanted a big deal with Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And on Thursday morning in a Fox Business interview with Maria Bartiromo, Mr. Trump said of the negotiating teams, quote, "We got back, we started talking again, and now the talks are starting to work out." But work out for whom exactly? By restarting negotiations, President Trump is laying a trap for himself. Politically, a, quote, deal with Nancy is a win for Nancy. The bigger the deal, the bigger her win. Not so much for Trump and definitely not for vulnerable Senate Republicans. In 25 days, not a single American will vote for President Trump based on another dump of helicopter money. Pelosi would get the credit, as Democrats always do, for massive spending, especially after Trump's dramatic, albeit brief, grounding of the helicopters on Tuesday created the appearance that he's crawling back to Nancy for a political helping hand, as if she'd do anything but shiv him given the opportunity. Furthermore, as Cocaine Mitch has no doubt explained to POTUS, it's a spectacularly bad idea to put vulnerable Senate Republicans in the position of having to choose between supporting President Trump and showing a smidgen of fiscal conservatism yet dribbling through their political spider veins. Quote, "I used to care about the deficit and debt. I promise, no takebacks." Yeah, right. And if enough Republicans refuse to go along, Trump and McConnell look feckless and weak. For Pelosi and Schumer, it's heads I win, tails you lose. When Republicans start acting like Democrats, fiscally speaking, voters say, we might as well go with the real experts in big spending and proceed to vote Democrats into office. Who can blame them? Republican voters eventually excused an excursion to the Appalachian Trail, but show me a Republican who forgave the betrayal, even though by a very good man, of read my lips, no new taxes. A very good man who may soon no longer be the nation's most recent one-term president. President Trump, you were right on Tuesday. Stop negotiating. Ground those helicopters. What do you think? That's some darn fine writing, isn't it? All right, I wrote that. It's at the American Spectator's website today at spectator.org if you want to read it or share it with friends. It is exactly what I think. They should stop the negotiations. It's not a win for Trump, and the country doesn't need it. And
This
we'll be right
is
back.
Denver's Talk Station with Ross Kaminsky now. Tom Martino at 10, 630, KHOW.